These are not bird sounds. This is a new pedal by VONGON.
I just hope that someday someone will love me. I just hope that someday someone will love me. I just hope that someday someone will love me.
Hello there, this is Alexander from Sinesquares.net, and today I'm really happy to introduce you to the new pedal by VONGON, Paragraphs 2. Paragraphs 2 is a filter pedal, and today we're going to explore 5 reasons why you need one on your pedal board. So VONGON Paragraphs 2 is the second version of the original Paragraphs pedal that VONGON released a few years ago, and I think it was their first pedal. They also make the Ultra Shear pedal that is a reverb with vibrato, and Polyphrase, which is a delay and looper that is inspired by the Lexicon Primetime rack delay, which is one of the best rack delays ever made. And only a few months ago they took a wild turn and released a digital synthesizer called Replay. So acquiring the knowledge about building a synthesizer led them to redesign this pedal from the ground up. Paragraphs 2 is a fully stereo 4-pole resonant ladder style low pass filter, and it's essentially the same filter that you can find inside the synthesizer Replay. It is also redesigned and now looks exactly the same as the other 2 pedals by VONGON, which I think are the most beautiful pedals ever. I mean, look at this thing. Wooden panels, amazing knobs, just a beautiful looking pedal. Regarding its design and features, it has of course a frequency knob, a resonance knob and a mix knob, but the fun with this pedal is the modulation options that it has to modulate the filter. It has a bipolar envelope that opens or closes the filter, that is also processing the left and right inputs separately to create a more complex stereo field. To control the envelope you have 2 sliders, a rise and fall, which are the same thing as attack and release that you've probably seen on synthesizers. The envelope has 3 modes: follower mode, where the envelope follows your signal's amplitude; trigger, where it gets triggered once the signal passes the threshold that you set with the sensitivity knob right here; and lastly cycle, where the envelope loops. On top of that, you also have an LFO with separate rate and depth controls. The LFO can be a sine wave or a random style modulation, and it can get really slow or really fast. That creates all sorts of different flavors of sound. So now let's listen to the pedal and go through the 5 reasons that you might need one. So the first reason is movement. In the synth world we tend to use the phrase adding movement, and 90% of the time it means that you're using an LFO, which is a constant waveform, to modulate your filter's cutoff. Since the filter is one of the most important factors of your sound, this modulation has a drastic difference to your sound. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that. Reason number 2 is to enhance dynamics. Since Paragraphs 2 has the ability to listen to your incoming signal and respond to that, you can take a really dynamic and responsive instrument like the guitar and enhance it with the opening or closing of the filter. Reason number 3 is to add a filter to a synthesizer that doesn't have a filter. As I was writing that, I realized I have way more synths with no filter than I expected. For example, the OP1 field has a filter, but it's an effect, so you have to use the effects slot to add a filter. The Lyra 8 doesn't have a filter. I have a Casio SK1 and a Casio piano that don't have a filter. The Korg FM doesn't have a filter. And the Osmos, which is an incredible synthesizer, and I have a full review on it, I'll put it somewhere around here, has a filter on some presets as a macro control, but you cannot modulate that. So there are lots of stuff that don't have a filter by design, so having the option to use one is really, really helpful. Reason number 4 is to just add a second filter to a synthesizer that already has one. So modulating 2 filters on the same sound is really, really interesting and creates so much texture that we're going to demonstrate right now. Reason number 5 is modularity. Not everyone has a modular synthesizer, but when I see Paragraphs 2, I tend to think about it as a filter module that would be in a modular case. It has a filter, an envelope, and an LFO that can create complex modulations. I often think of pedal boards just like a modular case, which means that you have your different modules, in this case pedals, that you can change their order, have them interact to each other, and create some complex effects. So having a filter in that context is really useful because you can place it wherever you want and take advantage of its modulation options. Keep in mind that Paragraphs 2 also accepts MIDI, which also opens up the ability to store presets, but also accepts CV. So we're gonna hook it up to the modular synthesizer and have a patch with the Paragraphs 2. So now let's do a quick pros and cons list for the VONGON Paragraphs 2. In the pro side, Paragraphs 2 is a great creative tool to have on your desk or on your pedal board. The obvious reason is to simply tame some of the harshness of high frequencies in your signal, but when you start out in modulation, that's where things get really interesting really fast. The envelope on Paragraphs 2 is really good, mainly due to its rise and fall controls. The rise and fall can go from 5 milliseconds to 4 seconds, and that means you can have really snappy and percussive fast attacks or slow swells by increasing the rise. The LFO can go to some extreme settings. It can go really fast, and that gives you the ability to create some sort of ring modulation that's adding noise and texture that, when used right, is really interesting and really cool. Another great addition to this pedal is that it's now fully stereo, and that's not only convenient when you want to use a stereo instrument like a synthesizer, but the guys at VONGON took full advantage of its stereo inputs and outputs. Both the envelope and the LFO enhance your stereo field. The envelope processes your right and left inputs independently, and the LFO creates some sort of ping-pong effect by going right and left and then backwards that widens your signal by a ton. Lastly, the way I work in Ableton Live is to always have a filter on the master channel on my mix bus that I can automate or play live with it. And now with this pedal, I'm gonna use it as an external effect to do the same thing and have a hardware low pass filter for when I'm working in Ableton Live. And what about the cons of Paragraphs 2 in my opinion? The thing I feel was a missed opportunity doing this pedal was to make it a multi-mode filter so it can have a high pass, a band pass and a low pass. That would make it a lot more versatile because you could use other types of filters for different sounds. But for most cases, yeah, a low pass filter is all that you need. Another thing that I would add was to have a sync input that allowed you to clock the cycle envelope and the LFO. Since you can create some very rhythmical effects with this pedal, it would be really nice to be able to stay in tempo all the time. So the VONGON Paragraphs 2 is staying on my desk. I'm a synth guy, so I love filters. In my Euro cases, I think I have 6 filters right now, so having one as a pedal is really great. Also, Paragraphs has a balance that I really like in any type of gear. It can do a basic job perfectly and really fast, like just filtering out a sound, but at the same time it gives you all the controls to get creative and get wild with it. You just twist a few knobs and you're already there. So a big thank you to VONGON for sending me this pedal. Thank you for being here. I hope you liked this video and you learned something. If you did, just leave a like or subscribe to the channel because a lot more reviews are coming in the following months, and I'll see you on the next one.